We're recording.
Okay, thank you. So this is the off-schedule meeting of the Capital Subcommittee because we wanted to get one in to be able to discuss the CIP before it was due in, or at least have two meetings possibly to do that. So welcome, everybody. I think we're going to start with the minutes. I scanned them very quickly. Did you get a chance to see them, Mariah? Do you want to wait? Let's wait with them. Okay, let's just wait. We'll approve them the next time.
I can look at them while we're talking if we want to hold that till the end. I'm sure that I'll get the chance to skim
Oh,
through.
you can multitask, huh?
Sometimes.
Amazing. Okay. So, and right now, of course, I don't have my agenda up. Does somebody have the agenda in front of them? I have your memo.
I do. The next thing is an update on the summer 2023 mini CIP project. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see here. I have, if I can find it, the latest report. Hold on 1 minute here.
Do you have the pictures? The Baker School. Have you seen, Mariah, the Baker School auditorium? It is, so actually, Linus sent me a picture. I wonder if there's a way, I don't know how to show things. If I sent it to you, can you?
I can probably forward it to Mariah.
Oh, you
the
have it?
picture. I do.
You have a picture?
I do.
Oh, great. Well, while Charlie's, have you found what you need, Charlie, yet?
Yeah, there we go. Let's see, share. Okay, here we go. So I met with Sarah a little while ago to get the most up-to-date information. And as you recall, there was approximately, well, there was $1 million for the planned mini CIP projects this summer. And to date, we will probably have somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 left over from the $1,032,000 and change, 34. And of that work, about 85% of it is completed, and we expect some of it might have to roll into the school year, some shades potentially, and soundproofing at Heath. But for the most part, all the major areas have been completed. So as Helen was mentioning, the Baker School, the floor has been done over. Sanded, it looks great. Colors are great.
In the auditorium.
Auditorium, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The shades are being cleaned, and the front of the stage is getting stained, hopefully in the next couple of days. The doors have been stained. And we're cleaning up the electrical over the next few days as well. And that'll be 100% done. And it looks much, much better.
So Susan, can you just show a picture so people can?
Yeah.
We do have two attendees actually also, so just so, can you? We'll just show that quickly.
The Baker School.
Yeah.
I just sent it to Mariah. I don't know how to get it from my phone to show on. Betsy, do you know how to do that?
Did you text it to me?
I just did. Yep.
My phone is dead. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know if I can actually pull
I
it
can
up.
probably email it.
Yeah, if you can
wait a
email it.
minute.
Oh, yeah. I can email it.
And if you email it to me as well, I can also try.
All right. Excellent.
Anyways, what I think is really important here, this room will be so much more functional for the school in terms of being able to multifunctional. In addition to just being an auditorium, it now can be used for many, many things. And what Charlie and Karen worked out was, and Sarah, to get all the electrical work off of the floor, off of the plugs in the auditorium and behind stage. So everything is now in the proper place. There's also going to be, I think they're not cleaning the shades. We're not putting the curtains back in, because they were really, well, they're, I think, almost original maybe, or probably 27 years ago. We're taking down the curtains, leaving the half circles and
Right.
just putting blackout shades
There you go.
so that
Correct.
there can be, and with the light in the room, it's just an amazing space.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
and the picture is, do we have it yet? No?
Did you get it, Betsy? I sent
I
it to you.
did,
Maria.
it's a little small. It's
Teeny, try it again.
yeah, it's not like allowing me to, it's not a great image.
Okay.
Well, while
Yeah.
that's happening, I just want to add that we also, per request from the principal and what was on the list, we carpeted a number of rooms at the Baker School. There's about 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually, to try and get the some work done in the school that the principal wanted, not everything, of course, but and that came out great. So
Is that
And-
the line that's the 5 classrooms, new flooring?
That
Line
is it.
29? Okay.
that is it. Yes.
There's also, while you're looking to pull up that picture, New Lincoln has been coming out beautiful.
Mm.
I haven't been there since the carpeting has been put down. Charlie, maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, it's doing great progress. All the work on the outside of the building has been completed as of today, including the painting and some various wood repairs on the cafeteria outside. The inside, we're at sort of a punch list stage on most of it, painting. The flooring, there's the music room and a back hallway with a staircase that's left for flooring, and that should be done by Friday. The auditorium is miscellaneous punch list stuff, but it looks great.
So all the chairs are in already?
Not yet. I'm waiting for an update on that. That was my next question. I asked
Okay.
Karen for an update, but my guys are ready to reinstall them as soon as we get them back in.
Uh-huh.
And the paint looks great in the auditorium now. It's nice and clean and so on.
All right, I've got the image. I'll bring it up. Can everyone see the Baker
So you're
auditorium?
seeing Charlie's screen still? I think Charlie
Yeah.
needs to take his down.
Okay. I'm gonna stop. There we go. There you go.
Amazing.
Yeah, it really came out beautifully. Except for that one thing in the bottom here.
I know.
Right.
I just noticed that. I didn't see that before.
Well, that's
Right.
what the patch stuff that they use for hardwood is for, right? Like,
Yeah. Wonder what that is. I'll look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
No, that's
sorry
all right.
to look at the one thing that's bad instead of all the good. That's here. So you can see how bright it is.
it's such a difference. That room was really dim before.
It
Yeah.
was dim and
Yeah.
ugly and, heavy. And now
Yeah.
it's bright and light.
That's
that was
nice.
what we tried
That's
to
really
do.
nice. Congratulations on that, getting that done.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's.
And like you say, it's so nice to have a multi-purpose space instead of just the auditorium.
Right, right. So now Baker really has 3. They have the 2 gyms and they have the small gym, the large gym, larger gym, and this space. And there'll be built-ins for some of this or cages for the musical instruments so that everything will be off the floor. But yeah. Okay, let's move on. I'm sorry. We're talking too much about this and we have other things we have to move on to. Is there anything else, Charlie?
Let's see, we're waiting for shades for the Runkle and New Lincoln. We are hopefully gonna get those before school starts. It's gonna be close.
Is it for the whole school at the shades? No.
For the Lincoln it was, yes.
So all 3 floors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Another project at the New Lincoln was some masonry work. That was all completed about a week ago, so that's all fine.
But that's not out of this budget. That's out
No,
of.
that's out of a capital budget, correct? And also out of another budget was to install heat pumps in the first floor classrooms.
Oh,
That should be done by Friday.
At which school was that? Sorry.
Lincoln, The new
Okay.
on the first floor. So very, very happy teachers over there about that, as you can imagine. And the idea is I'll apply for a rebate and see how much money I can get back, and hopefully I can get most of the money back.
That's for splits. What was that for?
Heat pump splits, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they have AC now too.
They have AC, correct.
Good.
Well,
Okay.
they don't use the heat, do they, from those?
They do actually. I've been installing these for years beforehand. This new rebate program came out a couple of years ago. So the way it works is the goal is to try and reduce our emissions, stop using the gas-fired boilers. You program the computers to turn on and allow the heat pumps to start first in the mornings and heat up the spaces. If the temperature drops below 50 degrees outside, then you're allowed to turn on gas-fired boilers. All done automatically. I don't actually follow that. I can go below 50 degrees, and I go as low as I can. And then if the room gets too cold, I just turn on the boilers anyway. And I've been doing that for years at the old Lincoln where it started, and it works very well. Those days that are, whether or not you should put the heat on or not, I have to decide to turn on the whole boiler and run the loop with hot water. What ends up happening is sometimes on the sunny side of the school, it overheats, but then the cooler, the shady side, the teachers are happy. So then you do it the other way the next day. And then on the shady side, they're freezing to death and they're furious. So with these heat pumps, you can turn on the AC in one room and the heat in the other room, and it'll be fine within 15 minutes. So it works out really well control wise. So
I didn't realize we had done the whole building with split systems. That's interesting.
we did the third floor and the fourth floor many years ago. We had that separate CIP for installing.
But I thought it was just on the sunny side, but I guess you did it on
No,
both.
we did the whole thing because it was so
Okay.
hot upstairs. So that
Uh-huh.
leaves the second floor for next year, whenever we have
Uh-huh.
funding to do that. I could go back just quickly to pop it up again. There we go.
And that came out of this CIP, or that came out of the town?
It came out of energy conservation money that I have,
Good,
and then I put the money back into it if I get the rebate monies back.
sure.
Um,
Does that money also come from like the new schools that we build? That mass save money, where does that go?
it could. Sometimes it goes into a separate account, and sometimes it just goes back into that rebate account. We'll be getting hopefully some money for Driscoll soon, as soon as it gets turned online.
Yeah.
So briefly going through the new Lincoln, we've had other work done in the auditorium. The stage was sanded, although it's not on this list. It was part of another fund, and we're doing the stage curtain, excuse me, and the soundboard. We did some work on the wood paneling on the first floor. Unfortunately, some of it got stained over the years with water and dirt and couldn't get perfectly done, but it looks much, much better than it did. I mentioned the window shades that are coming. Hopefully the lockers will be installed tomorrow that were removed on the back section. It's been a little bit behind schedule, get me a little nervous, but I'm told they're en route. So that should finish the hallways. And then you add that with the new flooring and the new paint colors, it'll look perfect, look great.
Right.
Cleaned up some of the bathrooms.
How did that come out? Did you see it?
The floors came out great. I think we got to do a little bit of work on repairing the partitions. They're still a little rusted, but overall it's nice and clean like the day that was put in
Oh, good.
30 years ago. They got all the grime and everything off of it.
Excellent.
First stairwell.
The reason I'm saying that, Mariah, there was a thought of replacing it, and I said, why don't we first try and clean it?
Yeah.
And, deep,
I lost where we're talking about. Which building is this?
this is Lincoln, the
Oh.
bathrooms on the first floor.
Oh, got it. Okay.
The Cafeteria, we touched up with painting, and we decided to try and clean the floor up this year because the new floor is over $50,000. It's one of the original linoleum floors, and it came out okay. It's not a brand new floor, but it's much cleaner, and they got mostly a shine to it, and it needs a couple of seams repaired. It'll be done before Friday. And we did the duct cleaning in the cafeteria as well. It was pretty
good.
dirty. Moving on to the Runkle, we did the fixtures, so there was no cost to that. We just bought some new ones, and that was about it. We decided to pull back on the Runkle. We were originally going to do both buildings, painting and flooring and all that, but we ended up concentrating mostly on the new Lincoln. And then everything is listed for the Baker, mostly the auditorium and some some classrooms that we did. The Heath, we did about 5 classrooms. That was completed. And as I mentioned, the sound absorbing panels will probably be 1 month to 2 months into the school year. Everything is taking a lot of lead time for that kind of stuff. And our contingency is fine. So if you wanted to use the balance of the money, you could use it on anything you wanted. More schoolwork or potentially the Baldwin School, if that's what you'd like.
Well, why don't we
So-
get to the mini CIP? Because that's our next item, correct, Susan?
Yes,
where you
yes.
were
Can I
going?
ask Charlie a question, though,
Yes.
before we turn? So if I'm understanding this correctly, the budget for this was $1 million. Our original estimate was $1,034,000.
Right.
But as of now, which we're pretty close to completing the projects that were intended for the summer, except for the Runkle piece, we have only spent $789,752. Am I reading all of that?
Well, we haven't spent the whole contingency. I was planning on a 94,000 contingency, and we've only spent about, actually, that's a surplus that's not written correctly. So it should be
Yeah.
789 plus 72,000.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I understand. And before we turn the page, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you and our operations team for just an amazing amount of work was completed at a very high level.
Thank you.
And I've been kind of overseeing facility work over many, many summers, and I haven't seen this amount of work be done in a school in the time, space, and sequence that it was needed at the level that you have been able to do this. So I just have to publicly thank you and your team for your effort. The buildings are just beautiful. And I know that Ed and his crew and Karen are all part of the gang that helps make that happen as well. But I just want to say kudos. Thank you for a job well done. It's
Thank
much
you.
appreciated.
Wow. I appreciate it. I also want to thank Helen for her choices of colors. We did have an architect. It didn't work out well, and I guess Helen's eye is much better than everybody else's, and she did a great job. If you can get a chance to go over there and look at the color scheme, it looks fantastic.
but it was a group effort.
It was.
Sarah and Karen and I worked together on this, and then Susan, when she came in, started to work with us. And what's good is that we all have similar taste. So it really went well. It was easy. It was fun.
It was.
I think this is so great, and thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Susan, for giving credit where credit is due. It would be great to get a couple of these pictures. I think as we continue to build our practice towards maintaining the buildings, showing the results of the funding will really be a huge step towards sort of closing the loop on the benefit of providing the funding to the schools.
I
So
think
if we
why
can,
they're not here today, except for that one picture, because things aren't done you want
Sure.
it to be done when
Yeah.
you show them to people.
No, right. And take a
Rather-
picture on a nice sunny day. So all the lights coming in the windows. and
Exactly.
Do a real glamour
exactly.
shot.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. We will definitely do that. And maybe the first meeting in September, we can do a little slideshow at the board meeting to showcase all these
I think that would be good.
new spaces and
Yeah.
renovated spaces, because it's very, very impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So now we're
Okay.
going to move on to the mini CIP. I think those are the two items that we have for today.
Yes.
Susan sent out a memo about an hour ago. I managed to read it. I don't know if others did. Charlie, have you seen it even?
Yes, I
Oh,
read it.
good. Okay.
I skimmed
And
it. I
Karen,
didn't.
Karen, you're with us too, right here?
Yes, I've read the memo.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that I'm trying to put together. Mariah had put together a spreadsheet that Matt and Charlie, I think, were going from, but this memo is sort of a separate, it's the same and separate. And so I don't know how to put everything together so that we can think about it in an organized fashion.
Can I add
Well-
on to that one thing before, which is the prior year, we had a 6-year CIP and this looks like a 1-year CIP.
Okay, so it's because Charlie was just coming back from vacation and had met with the principals last week. And I didn't want to send you out anything until he could put his eyes on it. So he put his eye on it today, and I'm not saying we're perfect, but I can share that with you now, because we just were like minutes before this getting his updates into it. I just didn't feel comfortable sending something that Charlie hadn't had a chance to look at, but we do have that. And so I can, can I just ask Betsy, did Kiana forward to you the document in a PDF?
Yes, I just got it. Do you want me to share it
Okay.
for you?
Yeah, if you wouldn't
right.
mind, because I'm not really sure how
Fingers
to.
crossed.
And then if we can send everyone on the, in the meeting, a copy of it in PDF, that would be great.
Okay.
So what we did is it doesn't have all the information that Matt's has, because it was a little overwhelming to try to work with that and understand how it was designed and sit with principals in a way I thought that would make our conversations productive. So we just shortened it up a bit, though all this information can be updated in the master document as we move forward, so we don't lose any of that institutional history. But what you're seeing now is just a list of items. I thought what we were asked to do was to go through and eliminate anything that had been done, and then add anything new that may have emerged since that was created last year. So that's essentially what you're looking at. And a good number of the items that are new, Charlie was able to give us some quick, cost estimates of about what he felt might be in the ballpark of what we might spend. So if you look at the very top, you'll see this is Baker's School. And because we have a new principal at the Baker's School, there wasn't really a lot of input the new principal could provide, because he started on a Monday and we met on a Wednesday. So for those, we had 3 new principals in new building in buildings new to them. And for them, we spent our time just like reviewing to make sure they understood, in case they were asked, what the items were. And to the best of our ability, we tried to explain it, or at least process and understand it. So for the Baker School, the only thing that you'll see that's different is that I added the tennis court ADA feasibility study, only because there had been that dialogue going on at the board level. And, for that item, it may be an item to put under the DPW, but I didn't want to lose it. So I stuck it here just so that you could direct me what the best way to, move this forward or send it to where it needs to be. Since I'm new, I wasn't abundantly clear about next steps for that. So I put it here. so that at least the community can see that we acknowledge, we heard what they had to say. And you can tell me what, if this belongs here, if I need to send it elsewhere, or how to proceed. Of course, I don't know what the cost would be of that.
So before we go into this, I assume you have it for each school, correct?
Mhm.
I have, yeah, there's a page for each school.
And the idea is to go through each one and see.
I thought it would just highlight anything that was new. If you
Uh-huh.
want, if you
Can
want
I
me to
ask a
do,
question before we do that? This is a functional question about all of them.
Yeah.
Whichever page you want to look at. So for FY23, we're talking about now FY25. And I still see on here that there's FY23 and FY24. So are we, how like, and maybe you just haven't done this bit of it yet, but like, how are we differentiating between, how are we cleaning out work that has been done? Because I see stuff in the FY23 and 24 columns. And if things, that was our initial estimate, but if things didn't get done, how are they getting rolled forward?
I think that Charlie and I need to be able to sit down and go over that part. If it had been anything that Charlie communicated to me, or the principals or Karen said was done, I deleted off the spreadsheet altogether. But items like this on 23, nobody, said that it was done. So I just left it there because I wasn't sure why. So I think there is another layer of work that we need to do, but some of this is just simply because I don't have any history and don't want to drop something that might be important, that has meaning to someone else. And then should it carry forward, or did the issue get addressed in a different way? I just,
Well,
Charlie and I can sit and clean all of that up, Mariah.
Okay.
Mariah, those
Yeah.
two items go together probably with the third one, all the stair treads.
But
And I
that's
think-
not my point. My point is just that it was
Yeah.
supposed to have happened 2 years ago. So,
Right.
I mean,
But-
it's fine with me if they roll it out to the other bit. I just want to make sure that when we're presenting, whatever we're voting on is FY25 through 30, I guess it is,
Yeah.
Right.
ultimately.
And
Okay.
if we get down to the bottom of this list, I'm sure it's going to be way more for FY25 than what we might have in the mini CIP or even in the CIP. Am I correct, Charlie?
Yes.
So,
Can I ask one more question on this page? Or this is just a comment on the feasibility, is when we voted it, it was voted not for the tennis courts, but a school building and grounds thing. So I say that is, I would say that that is actually a PSB thing. It might include just the tennis courts, but that's an ancillary component of what we voted. We
but
voted
are you
building and
talking
grounds.
within the building too, Mariah?
Yes, that's what we voted.
I
We voted building and grounds.
Okay, I think, so let's talk about Baker, because I think this is, a real question, at least in my mind. When we spend the money, how we spend our money and how we spend it well. And my sense is that by FY20, the Baker School, one can get to all the floors. It's handicapped accessible. It's not the best handicapped accessible. There are a number of our other buildings, but we're getting there with all of our buildings. I think we have to be careful about putting a lot of money here when we know that this is the next building that's going to be on our list to renovate. We also don't know how we're going to renovate it. Will it be just renovate in place and make an addition? Will it be moving it to the field and building new? I mean, there's all sorts of iterations that could happen here. And to spend millions of dollars on the building, I don't think makes sense. To spend some, to make sure that the building's safe, to make sure that the building is usable well for our population, those things are important, I think. But I think, in my opinion, I think we really need to be careful about how we spend our money.
Well, I think two things I would say is that we shouldn't put this ADA feasibility study in the mini CIP, since I think it's mixing apples and oranges.
Yes.
It should be on the sort of the full list, but not in the detail list of the mini CIP. And independent of what Helen just said, we did have a whole school committee discussion and we already voted on it. So and there was a different approach chosen. But I don't think it should go here anyway, because I just think like mini CIP is for this other stuff happening in the buildings.
Well, and the other thing is, isn't there a line item for ADA accessibility, Charlie, in the full CIP?
Yeah, I have about $80,000 in the CIP for miscellaneous modifications for ADA for town and school buildings.
So, so it should come off of our capital improvement plan list here, is what
No.
you're saying?
Well, it should come off of this mini CIP list, because what you're seeing is the mini CIP, not the full. Like this is like the
Okay.
mini CIP as opposed to the full list that we put together, which
Okay.
has bigger projects on it.
Yeah, the one that had
Yes.
the Baldwin School that had, I forget what else is on there right now.
And we can incorporate this into the bigger document, but I knew that I wasn't going to be meeting with principals to discuss the bigger projects, more programmatic or so. Okay, so you want me to take this out of here?
Okay, but that can be happen later. Do you want to, so Mariah, what
I
is
just
the
didn't
best
want to
you-
lose it, so.
No, but do you want to go through all of this? How do we want to?
I personally just want to see the bottom line. I mean, in my opinion, the
Yeah.
details of all of these projects and the estimates of their costs are like on the staff side and way below the granularity of things that I
Mhm,
would
mhm.
know would have any input on. So I'm just curious in the bottom line.
Okay, so I apologize that I didn't deliver what you were expecting.
No,
No,
this
it's
is
okay.
wonderful.
No,
This
it's
is great.
good.
I'm really
I mean,
glad that
this
this
is
is
good
being,
for us
yeah,
to look at. Definitely.
yes.
No, I'm, I attempted to look at what was provided in the past and replicate, other than the memo you received, which is more my style of trying to
No,
summarize.
I love seeing the kind of the work that's being done. I just can't
Yeah.
really comment on any of it. And I'm happy if there's things you want to call out to us. I'm happy to see those things. I just don't
Okay.
have any. Yeah.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with what you're
Now, this
suggesting.
is actually important on the BHS one. So these are things that didn't happen during the addition right now. Is that correct?
Yes. All these things here.
And so you're planning on replacing all the flooring? Is that what I'm looking at for the 675,000?
All the flooring that did not get done as part of I'd say the last two projects, which were mostly the old science wings and the STEM.
The STEM is done.
STEM is done. Let's say this is the section of the building in the middle that nothing happened to.
Uh-huh. Okay.
One
And
other thing I'm noticing here too is that originally the years were supposed to sum to the total, but like on that row, it's definitely not. So I'm presuming some of the formulas in here aren't right. Like
No,
it
I
says
don't think, I didn't summarize any totals at all, because some of the information, I don't have estimates yet,
But like
um,
the carpet and flooring, the row we're talking about is 675,000 times 4, but the total there just says 30,000. And I'm just saying originally the way this document was set up, it would give us that total cost for the project.
yeah,
it
this
looks
isn't
like-
the original document. This is just a Google Doc that had a portion of the information.
I see. Okay.
We kept getting errors with the original document, and not having any experience with that document or how they were connected. I didn't have time to figure out where the errors may have been generated from in time to meet with
Got it.
principals, pull this together, in addition to.
so
yeah.
the total we're going to see at the bottom is not the real total then.
No. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I suppose, in hindsight, probably should have closed, not shared some of the data at this time,
No,
because.
it's okay. It's okay. You
Yeah,
tried to, the best of, what you had to work
Yeah,
with.
no, it's good feedback. It helps me to better understand what's helpful for you and what you're looking for. So I'm not I'm not being, if it's coming across as defensive, I'm really not feeling that way.
Mhm.
It's helpful. I can, if I know, more of what would be helpful to you, then I'm not spending a lot of time doing things that you're not finding helpful.
Right.
So no, this is good. This is good. So I think, I guess my bigger hope was that we could focus on the memo, which is why I sent that. However, I don't have dollar amounts for everything. And based on what you've already said, this tennis court piece doesn't belong as part of the mini CIP grant process. So that would come off, and we didn't have a price for that yet anyway. So that wouldn't be part of the conversation for today. The items, I guess, that kind of float to the top of our needs for this year would be making sure that we have adequate space for all of the staff that will be moving out of Clark Road. And so, as I mentioned in my memo, there, sorry about that. So there's 3 areas that we are aware that there's some space that we could use. None of them have enough space for all 40 staff members, nor are they in locations that would make sense for certain staff that are at Clark Road right now, which is pretty centralized in location. So there's a little bit of space at the high school. There'll be some space at Driscoll after we open, because it was built out for more students than we have initially. And then there's the Baldwin School. And I know that's been a location that has been talked about in the past for a variety of different purposes. We understand that in order to be able to use that school, we have to have an educational purpose. And so we, are aware of that requirement, and are thinking is that we would use it for an annex for some of the operations staff, but in addition to that, as a location where we would have kind of a learning academy for staff, so that coordinators and, perhaps some of our assistant director of equity, and this is just a really loose concept, but would be have office space there, and we would have an area where staff could work together to develop learning and curriculum resources that they can use in their classroom, that we could have an induction program for paraprofessionals and teachers and new and emerging leaders that are coming into our school district, and a place for us to have kind of a learning center for staff. One of the, I guess, challenges that we have in education is that students come out of education schools and they aren't really adequately prepared to, to address all learning needs of all students that they have in their class, because that takes time to be able to develop, a repertoire of skills to address the, range and variation of needs. So having a strong mentoring and induction program will help our staff develop the skills that will serve us and our kids for their career here in Brookline. There really isn't a program, so to speak, for paraprofessionals, and that's another area where they come in with all kinds of backgrounds, and getting them ready and feeling like they're able to be successful and in the classroom is something that I think all schools would benefit from having, an induction program for them, and substitutes, and new principals. So it would kind of be a learning center for us. Some of the coordinators may not be a good fit for them, because we'd want to keep them more centrally located, and we'd be looking at maybe the high school or Driscoll for some spaces for some of the other staff that are in Clark Road. But that's kind of the concept. The Baldwin would be able to accommodate a good portion of the staff there and give them a more permanent home without having a tremendous impact on traffic in the area with that you would have if it was actually a school building. And then, of course, would have even less traffic, during the hours in which, families were likely to be in their home. So that was some of the thinking behind that. But in order to be able to use Baldwin, it needs to be renovated, and Charlie was able to put together a budget for some of the work that would need to be done, and we could actually use some of this leftover CIP money this year to really get ahead of some of the more involved work in that building, so that we would, be able to move in at the end of the year. So that was kind of our thought process there. So there would need to be additional money through the CIP process, assuming that would be the appropriate place for the remainder of the renovations to the Baldwin. And so that's a piece. And then there's a few, targeted projects in each of the schools.
Can we stay at the Baldwin or stay on one
Yeah, sure.
topic? Because I think the Baldwin is really important in terms of, and maybe you can pull that up, the list of things that need to happen there. Because I think there's a lot of things that will make, it makes sense that we have to do. Charlie, have you been able to go any further with the grant for the elevator for Baldwin?
Yeah, I actually got a draft of it today from Sarah over at the health department, and I was going to say that maybe a few of us should sit together over the next week and go through it. The grant application is due on September 15th, and so we have time. But I just want to get some more of the history and what the use would be, as Susan was saying, so we can get that finalized. It's a very simple grant. It's only about 2 or 3 pages long. So
That would be great, because that would take off. I don't know if that's included in this list here or that's apart from it. No, it's
It
not
looks like it's
included.
not here.
that's part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a $250,000 grant. Which
Uh-huh.
so
Okay.
I have a separate question about moving staff from Clark Road, which isn't related to the work at Baldwin. So Helen, will you let me know when I can ask that question?
Sure. Why don't we first just talk about what these are the items that you feel need to happen at Baldwin in order to.
I do. It's a tired building and it hasn't had a lot of work done because we were going to tear it down or renovate it or whatever. So this would clean things up, floors and walls and ceilings.
But
And
this doesn't do the windows, for instance, that I think are still single pane in the original windows, correct?
there's single pane, but we do have storm windows that are actually in pretty good shape.
Okay.
This would put in heat pumps, have air conditioning, but in order to do that, I need to upgrade the service.
Mhm.
And, it would allow more plugs to be added. We're actually pretty well maxed out over there.
Uh-huh.
Put in some energy recovery ventilators for fresh air. It's an older building.
Mhm.
Those are the units we put in during COVID at some of the sites, and they work well. And things up to including like shades. The shades are all maybe 20 years old over there, all tired.
So instead of redoing the heating system, you're basically putting in the window units or the whatever they
No,
are.
I'd be putting in heat pumps. I'd still keep the same heating system. It is steam. It's very, very expensive for me to convert it over to forced hot water. But the boilers are relatively brand new within the last 20 years.
Uh-huh.
The controls and the steam traps have all been maintained. I'd be putting new covers over them because the existing covers were in rough shape.
Mhm.
But that would be the fallback. Like I said, with a heat pump, you can't run it all the time in the winter because when it gets very cold, you need
Right.
the system. So
And 55,000 is enough for the bathrooms to renovate?
I'm waiting for the report from from the architect who's going over there, and I still haven't seen it, but that's my best guess so far. He was going to do an assessment,
Mhm.
cost assessment, and make sure that both the upstairs and the downstairs meet ADA. So,
Okay. All right. Mariah, do you want, is there anything else that we should know about Baldwin?
I actually have another question about Baldwin that I
Okay.
thought of. My
Okay.
question is, it's about the use of the space. So am I recalling correctly? There's 4 classrooms over there. How many classrooms are there?
More. There's 7 at least, because we had 7.
yeah, there's eight total, I think, depending,
Okay.
you're looking at some, but yeah.
And-
Some are half classrooms, they're not full size, so, but they
Yeah.
were small class sizes there, so it worked for them.
Okay, so my question is really, how many staff are going to be in Baldwin, and is classroom structure, whether it's classrooms or half classrooms, the best way to house them? Like, is this space being converted to offices, or is it really being left as classrooms and we have multiple people working out of one room, or what's the actual plan?
Well, right now, if it wasn't clear to me that we were free to go forward to use Baldwin. So until we, kind of jumped over that hurdle, we didn't want to go any further down the planning hole if this was not really a viable option. So we feel like it would be a great use of the space, but of course, I'm sure there's some hoops that have to be jumped through in order for us to be able to get the blessing to use it. I don't know who blesses that use.
Well, it's
Is it not a
so I think-
school? Isn't it
Yes.
our building?
Yes.
Oh, it is.
Mhm.
I thought the town owned all facilities, and we may have to, similar to Newbury College, the town owns that. So I thought maybe an MOA or something like that would be required in
No.
order to move forward.
No.
Oh, so that's, this school is our school, not a town building. I
Correct.
didn't understand that. Okay, so with that in mind, if we're just free to go forward with planning, then we'll dive a little deeper into it. I didn't know we were able to do that.
Yeah,
So
in our building, I think the
Okay.
one issue was that we use it as an educational facility, correct, Charlie?
which,
Correct.
yeah, okay,
We are doing.
okay,
But that's the only caveat. We can't use it as a, I don't know, a storage house, I guess, or I don't know, whatever.
And if
Yeah.
I could make one comment, having lived in the Clark Road environment with several people with, sort of half height dividers, it doesn't work well, for private conversations and sort of those kind of things. So if offices or some sort of other accommodation could be made, it would be a great space for most of the staff that's now at Clark Road.
Well, that's what I was thinking, was having been in conversations with you all on Zoom when you're in those rooms and you can hear other people talking in the background and so forth, and it's been distracting. So I think it would be helpful to understand not just the upgrading of the space as is, but like you do have this line for build, alter, or repair walls, but if that needs to go up because we're actually building, altering, or repairing more walls than we were originally planning, I think it would be good to understand, especially given you talked about there's 40 staff in Clark Road, and if each classroom can be turned into, let's say, 2 to 6 offices, depending on the size of it, that might fit even more people than originally was envisioned. I don't know how many people you were envisioning, but
I think that we need some open space for learning.
Yeah.
We would want to have curricular resources housed there, which right now are in at Clark Road that, should come onto this site. And so, again, this was just our preliminary thinking. I clearly didn't understand that we could, maybe move forward with this with the planning portion of it without additional approvals from the town. So
It's
right
just
now
this
we're gonna,
picture.
obviously, we're gonna open school, and there's still additional conversations that need to be had. Like, I'll give you an example. There's some services where parents are accustomed to coming. It's a better location to be centrally located for them to access services. So, we have like ELL, for example, they do a lot of testing. To have parents have to go out to where the school is, Baldwin School is, may not make a lot of sense. So maybe we would look for them to go to either the high school or over to Driscoll. So there's additional information I'd like to gather from the staff there about what their needs are before we say this group is going, concretely, this group is going to go here and this group is going to go there. I think when what we would like is to have people stay and have permanent homes in locations where we can, because it's, always disruptive to have to constantly be boxing up and moving around. And so if for those folks that would be relocated to Baldwin, we would like to have it be, a space that they feel creates the environment that best suits their work. So if it's an office, we would want them to have an office. And if staff need a conference room to be able to meet with others, I think we would want to have a variety of different types of space there. So there's more conversation that needs to be had to better understand the needs of staff and how their departments function before I would be willing to say, here is a plan that I think makes the most sense, and then be able to stand up and answer those kind of questions that you're asking now, like why did we make the choices that we made, and the thinking behind it. But honestly, have not been able to have that level of engagement with people about this.
Susan, one of
But
the
can do so and will.
Susan, one of the things that I think would be a good idea is also to talk to staff. So they've now been in a variety of different locations. Karen, you're the queen, even though you're the king, you're the queen of all these spaces.
Probably
And
more like patient zero, not the queen. Yeah.
poor Karen. But I think, for instance, we were at Webster Street, and there was, open areas and closed closed offices, and there were some conference rooms. So I think it needs some thinking through of the people who have been through the different configurations to figure out what works best,
Absolutely. I think that's the next step.
Right.
Coming into the meeting tonight, I honestly didn't know.
I'm sorry, maybe I
that
didn't
Baldwin
make
was
it
our
clear
space.
that this
Yeah.
was all the schools are under the school's purview. We have to sign the bills for things that are done within the schools.
Except for Lynch. Lynch isn't ours.
No, sorry, I take
And
it
Newbury
back.
isn't ours.
Yeah.
Newbury is definitely
So I'm
not
just saying,
ours.
I only
Yeah.
had one experience so far.
And
that was
Lynch,
Newbury.
just so you know, was an agreement with the Parks and Rec Department that they also want to update, because it's been, I think, since I first got on the school committee when it first got signed. But that was, we were allowed to use that by the rec department. It had been like a community center type place that they had used, but they weren't using it very much. So we got it to use for early childhood, with the idea that they would be able to use all the gyms within the schools during the years, because they run a lot of programs in our gyms. So that was the quid pro quo, so to speak. Okay.
I think it's exciting on Baldwin, and I hear it like I'm sensing a tension between the timeline you're describing, Susan, and the timeline by which we need to submit the CIP, which I believe is mid-September.
I think that, yes, all of this can't be resolved in a nice, neat package in the time frame that we have it. So I think what, I would suggest we do is to certainly put additional resources under the carpentry line, because We're definitely going to need more than that. I just plugged a number in myself. That wasn't part of Charlie's budget. I just knew that we would need to make some adjustments there. We can put additional money there. I do want to have the time when staff return. Of course, they're not here in the summer. This process doesn't align well with, kind of our school cycles. So, and me being new and having no one in Matt's seat, also adds complication to this particular year. But I do feel, now that I know that the Baldwin's school is ours, then I do feel that once we get everybody back here, being able to meet with the various groups and or send out at least a survey to get the conversation started about what do you feel are the needs of your particular department. That would allow us to be able to start to maybe sketch up a space based on some preliminary information we receive. I think visuals are so helpful, especially when you're trying to communicate with staff what it might look like and how they might envision themselves in a space. So I think we can do that, but certainly not by the 15th of September. So I think we're going to have to submit for the CIP grant without having every detail of.
Well,
the
just so
move
you
in
know,
place.
Susan, we had originally asked for CIP money for feasibility for this year. We didn't get it. I think we're going to need to do this at this point simultaneously, so to speak. Ask for either, we have the money hopefully left over from this year. And if we can get, another, so that would get through half of this list, which at least brings it up to code, am I right? If we get the elevator in and somewhat usable. Correct, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then figure out how we divide up the spaces. I mean, this may need to be a multi-year project is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's going to be totally 100% by next September or next July.
Well, but the years might be 24 and 25, right, Helen? I mean, if there's almost 300,000 in 24 still,
right,
then asking for only that delta could be possible.
Right.
I mean, it's just really unfortunate we didn't get the feasibility money last year because we would be in a
Right.
much better
to
place
do
right
it
now
in a
on this
more
planning.
organized fashion.
Right,
Of
exactly.
course.
Which was why we said we really needed that money last year. We sent a letter about it, but that's that. Can I make one comment on, not on Baldwin itself, but on the Driscoll BHS component of this planning?
Can we just okay, sure.
My comment on Driscoll and BHS is not about Driscoll and BHS themselves. It's more on from the memo perspective. As a school committee member, I don't really like the idea of really great new building space being used for staffing while we have students in suboptimal, or I'll say less recently renovated spaces than those. And so if we're going to do that, and also it feels temporary, as we say, right? Like if students come in, then those positions are having to move somewhere else. So if we do that, I'd like to understand or have some sort of explanation for why we are not putting students into those spaces instead. And then what's the plan for those staff beyond that temporary location? And one thing I want to say is that repeatedly in all of these buildings, during the planning process, we've been asked about including office space and it hasn't been included.
Well,
And
no, take it back. It has been somewhere, at least at Pierce, and I think somewhat at Driscoll.
At Pierce?
And in the new Pierce.
In the new Pierce, there's staff space in there?
There will be for both steps to success offices.
Okay.
One of the things we put in there. And I'm trying to think what else.
They already have offices at Steps. Steps has offices in all the buildings that they encounter, so they have.
No, but the the
Their administration's going in there?
administration,
Oh, okay, because they're with us now.
right.
So, okay, so that's a great example. If Steps is going from Clark Road to, for example, Driscoll, with the understanding that it's actually because their space is being developed in the new Pierce, and that's a plan, that's like a great thing to understand. But in the same way, I felt very uncomfortable with having staff housed in Baldwin in classrooms that we're paying a lot of money for. I don't want to see staff housed in classrooms that we have just recently rebuilt and also paid a lot of money for. I really want to see students being able to use those kinds of spaces. So I'd like to get better clarity on that before saying that I felt comfortable with it.
Yeah, I would say that there's conversations that need to be had before we would make a recommendation about specifically what, it wouldn't be random, right? We'd look at, as you've said, programmatically, we wouldn't, what makes most sense to be in what areas of town perhaps, and in what spaces in the short term, and then in the long run. So yeah, I think those are all things that we can incorporate into our thinking and make sure that we have answers for you as best we can. But of course, we're up against a very, very short turnaround in terms of timelines. Normally I would want to have more than, a few months to plan a significant move like this, but we're faced with a significant move in in less than a year, and we'll make the best recommendation we can given the circumstances that we have before us.
Thank you.
So great, thank you for that. That's helpful.
So one of the things that probably I'm hoping will happen with the mini CIP, since we will have a million less expenditure in leases for next year, I'm hoping that our mini CIP, which was $1,034,000 this year, could possibly go up to 2 million, so we could really get through a lot of this stuff and hopefully do Baldwin the way we would want it to be done. So that's my hope. That's what I would be trying to push for, if we can. I don't know how Melissa has it, what her calculations are for this mini CIP, or how much she thinks they'll be, but that would be my thought, at least. So
The other thing to think about for the mini CIP though is Charlie and team's capacity to run $2 million worth of product. I mean, this 800,000 or 750,000 was a huge amount of work, as we all discussed
Yes.
earlier. So we might have other CIP projects which are in excess of that, but I personally am wondering if the mini CIP itself could actually be doubled and have that actually be, I mean, that's up to you,
Be able
Charlie,
to-
and you, Susan, to talk about, but really whether you could run, if you were given that much more money, if that was even a possibility to get through in a summer.
Well, I'd say yes, it depends on what we're doing, the scope, and when we agree to that scope, I could put in orders, get quotes, put out bids. This year was sort of a little different. I mean, it happened and then boom, we got it done. But we should probably by January, February, know that we're gonna get $2 million. You get a feeling for it. And then we can start planning and budgeting, planning and scheduling right after that. So we can hit the ground running. Maybe we can get some of it started earlier if some of this money was left over, of course. If we're gonna do, say, the new Lincoln, you gotta tell me that you're not gonna have any summer programs at the new Lincoln, as an example. Or the front home, so. That helps quite a bit with nobody in the building.
Mariah, my thought was that we should finish up Lincoln, so we don't have to go back to it. And not put a summer program in there, and finish it next summer if we have enough money, which it seems like we probably will, to do the other 2 floors. I don't know, they're not as complicated. The library is, And that's about it, right?
Well, I think the cafeteria is very complicated there. And it needs a lot of work, that space, I guess it's the barn space that's
Well,
used
but
as
that
the
barn is
cafeteria
gonna be
now.
a barn no matter what you do to it.
Yeah, but the windows, yeah, need some serious,
I think they did some work on them, didn't you, Charlie?
Yeah, we fixed all the inside mullions, all the rotted wood, and all the outside wood was fixed about a week ago, and it was painted today. So,
okay. So maybe it's different now since I saw it last, but
Yeah,
the flooring and painting and, I mean, you and I walked it, so. Yeah,
the
there's a
painting,
bit of
yeah.
work that needs to be
There
done
was
on that.
painting
space.
that needed to happen, that didn't happen. That was the one place we didn't paint.
I have no strong feelings about what happens when. I just like to understand it and make sure that it makes sense to me so I can advocate for it. Because if I can't understand it, I can't advocate for it.
Right.
Right. So are
So
these numbers right, Charlie, of what's left, or?
what's left for the list of the deferred maintenance? For the most part, as Susan mentioned, I just looked at it today, and
Yeah.
I still need to drill down a little deeper and clean things up. Based on what we're getting for prices for Pierce, I could probably update this better. I know the prices keep going up. And some of it I use square footage numbers, you know, for painting and flooring, so I can
Mhm.
work on that.
Okay,
Not be too far off, but
so,
So if I'm hearing you, just so I make sure that you get what you need and what you're hoping for, is that this kind of a worksheet is not necessarily helpful, but what is helpful is certainly having all the numbers for whatever we want to consider for the CIP mini grant work for next year. And so is that true? That's what you really want. So here's the items we recommend, and this is the amount, and this is what it totals to. And then in addition to that, around Baldwin and the moves out of Clark Road, you know, a plan that's in more detail about what staff would move where and why. And then as far as Baldwin goes, you know, when we put people in Baldwin, what will it cost us in addition to kind of the physical plant to create the space that's more optimal for the people that are going to be working in there, so that they're not, you know, having 3 and 4 people trying to work with no walls or temporary walls in a space that we would want them to have a more appropriate space for whatever purpose they serve.
just so you know,
Is
there
that-
are some offices at Baldwin. I don't know how many, but there are some already existing. But that, I don't think there's enough for the number of people that we, you know, would need. The other place that also may have some office space would be the FRR. And that may be a place, you know, depending on if they have the space, which I think they might, for the ELL program also. The EL staff, because that's also a very central space that people can get to easily, and many of the kids go there who they're testing or live in that neighborhood. So I guess I'm trying to remember, Charlie, and you probably know best, when we put together the CIP, we have the big items on the CIP, such as Baker Schools, such as, well, Baldwin is now becoming pieces, but let's say we put Baldwin. What else did we have on the bigger CIP? Do we remember?
I just was looking it up. Do you want me to just pull it up on my screen?
Yeah, that would be so nice.
Yep. Charlie, do you mind taking yours down? So this was what was in last year's budget book. So you can see that for FY25, we talked about, so we had the furniture, the deferred maintenance, and then we had, this was Charlie's request for next year. So those were our big things. Was Baldwin was for this year. It was the classroom capacity leases. This is the last year of it. We have coming up. Now, why was it? It looks like there's another year. Is that another year of Clark Road in there? Why is it still this high for FY25?
It shouldn't be.
Oh, maybe it was because we hadn't officially voted it when this got submitted. We hadn't officially
Mm,
decided.
I don't think so. I think
No,
they
I don't
just
know.
didn't do the numbers right.
Okay, so then the Baldwin question, and then furniture, and then deferred maintenance. So there was nothing else pending. We had Baker in the out year. The one thing I would go back to is we had a long-term capital plan that was unfunded in FY24, and we might want to bring that forward to request it again for FY25.
So we should look at the capital plan. I actually came across it just recently, and I can't, that we did back. I'm sorry, I don't have it here in front of me, and I don't remember.
Is that the MGMT one that was like 2006 or something?
No, they've updated it, I think in
Okay.
2012. That's still
Okay.
11 years ago. But it certainly did talk about the capacity and stuff like that in each school. It would need to be updated, and well, let's leave that in. Let's leave the long-term capital plan. Like you said, we could move that forward. The deferred maintenance FY24.
Which is what we call the mini CIP officially.
Yeah, right, right.
Yep.
So that, would certainly still be there. I don't know how we're doing with furniture replacement, if we really need to have that for this year. We have it sort of in every year, and they give us like 100,000. I don't know how much we used of it.
We got only 25,000 in FY24.
Oh, is that what we got? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so maybe it doesn't matter. 25,000 is fine. We can leave it at 200. We'll get the 25,000 then.
Well, we had put in 100,000 for FY25.
Uh-huh.
I think it would be helpful to understand. I mean, it would be helpful to understand what is possibly slated for that.
I think that the challenge, I think all of it would be great. But I don't have any capacity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
I'd love if I had all of the information that went behind this, but I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And the hours that I spend trying to locate some seminal documents, and then when I think I find them, they don't tie to anything current, it's just astonishing to me. But I can't change that. So my strategy has been to try to address whatever our immediate needs are in the moment. In this case, what do we want to move forward for CIP, and give enough runtime. If I think I have a candidate that we can hire for Matt's replacement, but that person's not going to get here probably till October. Right. And in the meantime, we have all of these other pieces that really need to be attended to. So I just,
That's fine.
I love the enthusiasm, and I want exactly what you want. But unfortunately,
But this number we have,
Yeah.
already. It's not this number. It is, but it does exist. And
Yeah.
the Baldwin you've already rolled into, you're going to present as a combined package, correct?
That first number.
I don't know what these numbers are, so it's hard for me when I see this. I say, I don't know what any of these numbers
Well, I
connect
can
to. Maybe Charlie does. I
Let me
hope
walk
Charlie
us
does.
through some of it. The 1988 for FY25 should probably be 684. Because that's the two rentals we have at Temple Emeth and at Oave Shalom, the two temples. So we could take out the 1988 and put in whatever those two costs are. Karen, you probably know that number for next year.
You're about right with the 6.
The 684?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought. The 6 million was what Charlie was thinking about when we were really redoing the windows, redoing the HVAC, redoing everything at Baldwin, correct, Charlie?
Correct,
So now we're talking on a smaller scale
correct.
to try and get it livable and comfortable, and usable.
And the
And-
6 million was a placeholder because the 75,000 was what was going to actually give us the budget. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And the furniture has always, Susan, I'm doing this so that you can understand how this has come about over the years. The furniture replacement, we've had a placeholder because you need to replace furniture. But what has happened recently is that we've had some new schools come online. So we have some, and we get new furniture for the new schools and then distribute the older furniture that's still very good, some of it, to some of the other schools that may have even older furniture. So that's sort of been the pattern of what we've done. And then we've had, a certain amount of money for if something fails, in the middle of the year or something like that, you have a certain amount of furniture money. Apparently this year was 25,000. The deferred maintenance, as Charlie was saying, is the mini CIP. And my sense is, I don't know if we put in 2 million, what we think we should get from.
No, we're putting in whatever the final dollar is. Like our 6-year deferred maintenance plan, the 25 through 30, will have actual dollar amounts, but for each item, once Susan and Charlie have the chance to
Okay,
reconcile the bits. And then we include the actual dollar amounts for that as they have allocated them.
okay,
Now, last year we put in the 1.69 million, 1.7 million, and then we got $1 million and we adjusted and reallocated as Charlie and Matt saw fit to what should be done. And so, and if they don't, whatever FY25 is proposed to be based on you all's plan, if we get less, then we'll adjust, right? But
right.
the whole point was we had been told that we need, that we weren't doing our part on maintaining. And so we cleaned it up and sort of start to get a much better sense of what needed to be, what it would look like to repair things over 6 years, to start to dig
But the
out from the
17
backlog.
million, I think, is still high.
Well,
Because
that was because when we were told last summer that Charlie had reviewed the list, and during this year, it turned out that Charlie hadn't reviewed the list because when he did review the list, he said some multiples of the $17 million things had already been repaired through other, as things went along. So I agree with you. I think the 17 million is high, and hopefully that between what was done this year, the 800,000 of work that was done this year, plus the stuff that has already been knocked off and just wasn't removed from the list, it should go down dramatically.
Right. And does this still include Driscoll in that list, that 17 million? That's been taken out already.
Yeah.
Okay,
Driscoll and I believe Pierce were both already removed from that. I could be wrong. Pierce could be in there. We can find the list and pull it up, but I think we had optimistically removed Pierce. We can double check.
okay. And the long-term capital plan, so that's our CIP. And I think we should put it in order of need. Baldwin, depending on what we can squeak out this year and what else you need, that would be the biggest question, I think. How much to put in for FY25? 6 million is not going to happen, but what can happen? And what,
Are you talking about for Baldwin?
yeah,
I think
Well,
if Charlie and I sit down with Karen and Sarah, we can clean this up. I think with Karen and Charlie and Sarah's knowledge of this document here, I mean, we can update that and I don't know, certainly within the next couple of weeks.
yeah.
when-
There's
when staff
also a
when staff
narrative.
return,
FYI, there's a narrative for some of these requests too.
yeah, I don't
later on.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
saying
a
it might
lot.
help.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure.
So we are meeting again on September I don't have it written down. I'm pretty sure September 12th. And when is the CIP due?
The 15th.
Yeah,
And when is the school committee meeting then?
We're meeting on Wednesday, school committee is meeting on Wednesday, the 13th.
13th, perfect. So we can, well, we're doing it in the 11th hour, but it's gonna happen. So if we could maybe even get some of that stuff ahead of time, once you guys meet and work through.
Mhm.
I know some of it is a little bit more heavy lifting than others, but we could then go over it, Mariah and I, because I think we'll be the only ones on the committee at that point. And then recommend it to the school committee so that they can submit it for the CIP. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Susan?
Yeah.
All right.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like it's pretty focused too, because most of these other things, we know what they are. It's really just the deferred maintenance and Baldwin that it's just narrowing down the cost estimates, correct?
So I have,
And updating and understanding why there are things that were on the list, because this list is not what I made up, right?
Right.
It was part of the original one, but we can go
Yes.
through it, each section. Now that Charlie's back and neither of us will be on vacation, we can just sit down and figure out what was that 15,000 about? If it was done elsewhere, can we eliminate it, or do we move it, down the line? If so, where? So I think it's just a matter of just sitting down and figuring that out. Then we'll get new totals for, like you said, 20, 25, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So for the 5 years, and then we can
It's a
plug
6
that,
year,
right?
6 years through 30. I don't know why, but the town does a 6-year plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that, and then we'll update, if I can find that worksheet you were just showing in a editable form.
Yep.
If not, then I can maybe have Kiana recreate it.
It's not, that PDF is from the budget, but we had documents that were, and I can certainly share the original Google Doc from the last year's budget, but it doesn't need to be in that format. Like, that's helpful though. It's a
Yeah,
nice
no,
format.
I'd like to follow the format, because I find that if people are used to seeing it in a certain way and you keep it in that way, it's easier for them to understand.
Mhm.
So I'm the one that has to learn.
The other thing that, just to pull that back up, is that last year Erin came to us to ask for our endorsement of the playground renovation timeline and dollar amounts. And we actually voted to endorse those. So if something's like last year, we included our stuff and we also included other schools related stuff. So here are the things that Charlie submits, but which are related to schools. And here are the things that DPW submits that are related to schools. So if the school committee is going to sort of essentially present a combined slate, then we probably want Erin to come to that meeting too, Helen, on the 12th. And Charlie, if you're going to have your updated dollars too.
Mhm.
For if is it just these 3? I could have sworn there was other things that, like the
No,
accessibility one. Oh no, accessibility is here.
There's life safety, security, fire alarms, elevators, oil tanks. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, so if you can bring it to us too on the 12th, then we can vote the entire slate, Helen and I, and then bring it to school committee.
right. I think with the playgrounds, it's not necessary for Aaron to come because they're in the out years. They're in 28 and 29.
Well, but it would be at least be helpful if you checked with her and said, is this still what DPW is going to submit?
Okay,
So
yeah,
like
that
at
I
least
can
if the
do.
dollars have changed or the years have changed, we already got the concept presented to us, but that way we can update it so it matches what she's submitting.
Right, because the cost probably has gone up a bit.
Yeah, or she's leaving them the same year and hasn't changed anything. I don't know, but that way we
So-
have it matching.
One of the things that I would suggest when we look at the mini CIP to once more, I think we were very effective this year by concentrating on 2 schools, really getting things done, and getting them done well. So if we could think about doing that again next year, and then move on to other schools the following year, unless it's something urgent, that needs to happen.
I think there are the items that I put for the other schools. I felt after my meetings with the principals that these were the urgent matters that have impact on programs and
That's in
or
your email?
safety. So if you look at, for example, the curtain, the lighting and the sound system in the multipurpose room at Runkle, they can't really use that space because for the purpose it was intended, or all purposes that it was intended, because it doesn't, the systems don't work. Another example is just, and anything on the town hall floor. I mean, if that's done differently, certainly anybody can tell me, but there is some electrical work that's required for us. And I don't know how to get that done, but maybe Charlie can explain that type of thing. But also if the Heath School, I know that at a board meeting, I think it was this summer, or maybe it was in June, that ASA presented their thinking about the change of the name change over there at the Heath School. If that happens, then we're going to have to put new signage up in the gym, you know, anywhere where it says Heath, we're going to have to replace all the signage on the school. So again, if the CIP mini grant process isn't the appropriate place, it still is going to need to be done, I'm assuming. Right? I mean, if town meeting votes in November to change the name of the Heath School, then over the summer, I would think that we would need to replace all the signage, right?
So it could be, yeah, it would have to be in that CIP.
I wouldn't put the signage within the mini CIP because it's not a deferred maintenance thing. Personally, I would pull it out so as not to mix apples and oranges.
So how would we get that done?
I would
Well,
just make
we
it a
need to get-
separate line item in our CIP request for whatever the dollar amount is in it.
Okay, yeah, I guess you'll have to explain it to me because I don't know what that means. I don't know the difference. I don't know what that means.
We would have to get an estimate on what, you know, the cost would be for signage. I don't know, Charlie, if you have a sense from Ridley, how much we paid for and it depends where we're putting the signs. I think it's only one sign in the front of the school. I don't think there are other signs.
Yeah, I put a placeholder in at 5,000. I think that's way too high, but I gotta find out. The Heath is aluminum letters that flat stock on the front of the building, and I
And
just
it's
bought one of them.
placed on the building, right?
It's physically on the building, and one year, one or two of the letters got stolen, so I didn't spend $10,000 a letter, but I'll find out how much I spent back then. We ended up putting them up. It's no big deal.
But rescreening the gym floor would be more,
Yeah,
Does it say
the
Heath?
logo, etc.
Does it say Heath? I don't think.
that's
so.
my understanding. ASA said that the gymnasium would have to have all of the naming in the gym. There's mats, I guess, that I haven't been in the building, so I'm just repeating what he said. So the
I
estimates.
think I'll go over there and see what's going on there too, just to get a sense of what we're talking about, how many pieces.
And maybe Mariah on Friday, you can show me what you mean. I know that there's.
I could explain it super
quick.
quickly, right? It's just deferred maintenance. So the updating the signage isn't deferred maintenance, right? It's like a new thing.
Yeah, but I don't know where you want me to show that. That's all. Like, so if not there, right, if not in that line, then things like the tennis court assessment or the whatever.
Let me just pull it up
words
right
used.
now.
Like
So
where
like
I'm-
you'd have a
where
new
I'm
line
presenting
here.
that.
You'd have a new line here that says PSB
Okay, thank you.
tennis, like ADA Baker accessibility. You'd have a new
But,
line that says
um,
PSB Heath renaming. They'd be
Gotcha.
smaller amounts.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where.
Yep.
Okay, so it's just
But,
in
you know-
this list here, but I take it off the detailed lists.
Mm-hmm.
Because those
Exactly.
detailed lists were only supposed to be for deferred maintenance. This is new
Correct.
information. This
Yep.
is really helpful.
Good. It is
But
now I-
confusing because it's like CIP and mini CIP. It's like, it sounds like the same thing, right? Yes. So
But wait a
Yes.
minute, Mariah,
Yeah.
I have never seen like $5,000 items on the CIP. Have you, Charlie?
No, generally she won't accept anything below $25,000.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so anything above 25 or above can be CIP. But Charlie,
if it's going to be
will you go over to
5,000
the
though?
Heath School and look at it? Because the signage isn't just on the outside of the building.
Yeah, I'll go over there. I'll take it.
Yeah. And I
I mean,
don't know how
hasn't
much it would
ASA
cost.
provided already a thing, like a listing?
I have what Asa told me needs to be updated, so I know what it is. I've just not visually looked at it myself.
So Charlie, when we go and look for the battery storage on Thursday, maybe we'll go over to Heath together and just take a look if you have time.
Yes, I was also gonna ask if you, Susan and I could talk about the grant for the, blue
Yeah.
with the Baldwin at the same time. So,
Sounds good. Why don't we do that first, then go out and look and then go to Heath? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
yeah,
Susan,
What-
are you
when is
available at
this?
10 o'clock? Are you even available at 10 o'clock on Thursday?
Who, me?
Yeah, no, we just scheduled you.
I don't know. This week is pretty crazy. Let me peek.
I mean, if not, we can do it differently, but
I think that's the new staff orientation.
is it at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, I think it's like 9 to 1 or something like that.
Yeah, but Susan doesn't need to be there.
I don't know. I'm
um,
just saying that is something that is happening. at that time.
Actually, that is something I do need to be at.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm pretty booked up on Thursday morning,
Okay,
but you
But
and you and Charlie could, I mean, I don't want to hold things up. I do need time with Charlie on a few items, but,
well, maybe Karen could meet with, Karen, I don't want to, use your time, but maybe Karen could meet with us and look at it and then
They
speak
have
with you
that
about it.
standing Driscoll meeting on Thursday
My
morning.
understanding
10.
just, okay,
Yeah. I could do earlier, but not 10.
9:30?
Sure.
How's she gonna get to Heath and back at 9:30 if she has to
I
be somewhere
can-
else at 10?
No, she's not
I-
doing Heath.
It's a call. It's a call.
Oh, okay.
I can just hop on the phone.
Charlie, can you do 9:30?
yeah, I'm just looking at that. Yeah, I can make it work. I do have to be back to the Driscoll for an MEP meeting at 11. That's on site, so
Okay,
as long
so,
as you're done, so I can run over to Driscoll before that, that'll be fine.
okay, we'll take separate cars, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So 9:30, Karen, where, are you at town hall?
I'm at Clark Road, so I
Yeah.
could either, where are we meeting at Heath, or are we starting at Town Hall?
Let's meet at Heath.
Yeah, okay, I just hope we'll get to the. Okay, we'll do Heath and then we'll come over, okay. All right,
Okay.
Heath at 9:30.
Mhm.
Okay, so is there anything, any other things with the CIP? I think we've really,
There's
This one.
one thing I just want to interject. So the lease will end for 2 Clark Road at the end of June.
correct,
Will need to move people.
correct.
And if Baldwin's not done by June, you're not gonna have any place to move them to, other than, from what I'm hearing, Driscoll or a high school, or maybe even a Ridley. So if you did want me to do work with some monies, now's the time to do it, to get the space ready, whatever that
Right.
means.
Right.
Before
I
June
agree.
30th. And again, it's not gonna be $6 million worth of work, but maybe we just do the basics or build a few offices or something like that. But if that is what we're going to do, I really need to know relatively soon so I can jump on board, because I've got Driscoll opening up, and we're building out spaces at Newbury for Pierce, and it's going to get a little busy sometime in the winter. So if I can just schedule things and get contractors lined up, that would be great.
So can we make a decision? Mariah, help me with this one, to use the leftover money now to start planning things at Baldwin?
Yeah, I can bring the list with me when we meet.
Yeah, I know.
I guess my question
I
is
have-
this, like, is there a way to structure the use of the funds such that you're spending the 300,000 on things that we know we will need either way, independent of whether or not we get the rest of the money and how we allocate the rooms, how we break up or break down the rooms? Does that question make sense? Like we would need, I'm making this up. We need to do the hot water heater anyway, so that money will be spent. We need to do sort of some of this like basic
Electrical
infrastructure.
service, we know.
Right, we need to do the electrical, so all of those things get front loaded into the 300,000. And then if we don't get the extra money in the CIP that we need to do some of this other work, those things don't happen, but we still have the things that are necessary for occupancy ready to go. Does that make sense?
Well, if you said you wanted to break up one room into 4 offices, that affects the air conditioning. That's gonna jungle. I gotta figure out something how to make that happen. But if you said I wanted to keep the room, one big room, then that's what I've sort
But
of.
that's what I'm saying is there enough stuff that's not that kind of a thing. Like the hot water heater doesn't matter how many, whether they're rooms or classrooms, the electrical doesn't matter, although it might matter
Bathrooms.
depending on where the walls are, right? Like, can you chunk out stuff that some of those final design decisions don't matter?
Yeah.
Okay, 300,000
We may-
worth
And we
or
may
250
need-
worth?
Yeah, I've gotta get the architect's plan for the bathrooms. Again, that's a good chunk of money. But yeah, I mean, we could prioritize and
Does
Get it.
that make
Yes.
sense to you too, Susan, to sort of break it down like that too?
Oh, absolutely. And I
And-
think that, and I'm just, again, we wouldn't have 40 people move in there. Okay, so, but let's just, if we're gonna throw a number out, let's say maybe 20 to 25 people, if that helps at all, Charlie.
Yeah.
20 to 25 people would be there.
The other.
Something in that range. Maybe it's 26, but it would be something like that.
I know it's not been good at Clark Road to have a whole bunch of people in a classroom. However, rather than trying to do something willy-nilly, if people had to be in a classroom with the barriers for a year till we got the CIP money, till we could do the work that we want to do the following, during the summer or in the fall of the following year, at least it would be a habitable building. Not exactly the way we want it, is sort of my thought. I don't know.
I think a good chunk of the people that might go there, I think they might fit into people that work year round. So some of the operations team folks, right? And then people that will work school year. And for the school year folks, their space could be built out in the summer.
Mhm.
And maybe the focus, as we get a little further down, would be the area that we would set up first, if we had the money available, would be for those that are year round. And then in the summer with the new CIP money, then we would do the school year folks, and maybe with 6 weeks, if we're just down to doing some, construction of walls and extending electricity or whatever, but we have the bathrooms done and the ADA issues taken care of, then maybe that, but Charlie would really need to weigh in on that, but that would be my thinking. You would do all of it in kind of a phased approach. It wouldn't be that, because we could move things out into a holding area. I'm sure Karen has some tricks up her sleeve there on where we could do that temporarily while space was being built out at Baldwin in the summer.
The one other thing that we probably should, I would hope that you could check with Melissa, both you, Charlie, and Susan, is there any leftover money from other projects that they're not using that could be reallocated to the Baldwin? Knowing that we're getting out of this, we didn't get the money in the feasibility, but we're moving ahead and doing stuff. Can she add to the sum? Because sometimes there are projects that either don't take off, get delayed, whatever, that the money's still there. Am I correct, Charlie?
Yes, unless the money was bonded and we haven't spent it, she wouldn't. I mean, it's in the CIP, but if we don't spend it, she didn't get the bond necessarily. It depends on the time of the year.
Okay, well, maybe you can have that conversation with her.
I
to
do
see-
know.
Do we have other money though, our money that is in some of our prior year CIP accounts that we could be drawing down on? For example, I'm just making this up, but the first one, like the $25,000 in furniture, did we spend $25,000 in furniture or whatever it was for the prior year? 25,000 is for this current year. But do we, for example, have prior year other CIP funds that we could be drawing down on? Melissa should have that info for us, right?
She should.
So not even having to ask other units for their CIP money, but just spending down our own old CIP money might give us quite a bit of money, maybe, hopefully.
Well, if she carries it forward, that's,
Well, once they're allocated, they're allocated.
is that true, Charlie?
Yeah, then you have to go to town meeting and close them out, but if it's my money, I go right to the penny to the end, because we don't know what's gonna happen when a project gets completed. We still do work. We'll be doing work at Driscoll long after people move in anyway, so that's what I usually do. I was gonna
But
mention,
Driscoll is bonded work, so that's different.
it is different.
Yeah.
This year, your operating budget had a surplus, and she promised you and I that she was gonna carry it forward to the CIP.
Oh, she did. Oh,
Remember
okay,
that conversation we
Yeah.
had, because we couldn't encumber the money?
right.
So
I didn't realize, but for this year, or did it have to go into free cash first?
I have to go into
following-
free cash, yeah.
So it's the following year. It's
It
not
would
for
be the
this year.
following, so.
Well, it's for FY25, which is the year we're talking about. 'Cause it gets,
No. it's
yeah,
for
it gets,
FY
it was from FY23, it gets, whatever,
certified
certified in
FY
24 for
24.
deployment in
Oh,
25.
Yeah, so it would be for next year.
Anyway, it might be a nice opportunity, and it might be useful information for you in general, Susan, to find out how much in old CIP money is floating around for the schools in prior
Write me
years.
email right now.
You're writing an email, or you want me to write you an email?
No, I'm writing an email to Melissa right
Oh,
now.
awesome. Okay.
If I had to guess, there's nothing there, but I may be wrong. But let's think about it in that way. I mean, when you're talking to you go in and have a conversation with her, both of you, right? About the CIP. So hopefully that conversation can be about it. Is there ways to leverage some monies for this so that we can finish it during this year so people can get in?
The other thing I just want to mention, and I brought this up, but I don't remember if you were there, Susan. I think when Linus was presenting at school committee a couple of weeks ago about the moves that were going on, and I asked if we were looking at either remote or hybrid working situations for back office staff who don't need to be in buildings. And so I would just encourage again, if there's opportunities for staff within those 40 or other people who aren't needed to be on site, that we think about how to, or at least not every day, that we think about office sharing or virtual work to minimize the amount of space that we need to find for people.
Yeah, I think that's something we can certainly have a conversation about. I know in some areas, because there's so many new staff members and we're so short-staffed, that things crop up on a daily basis, that having staff available to, as I call, have little huddles to discuss things is really critical right now. We have a saying that when you have low readiness, you have high structure. When you have high readiness, you can have low structure. And right now we need high structure because we have low readiness here. So yeah, I think down the line, once we can kind of get our legs under us in most areas, then I think, having a little more flexibility might make sense. I think right this particular moment, with everyone being so new, having people here and accessible for connection and getting the work done is, at least for the moment, pretty important. So, but I do hear you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Sorry, I turned it off because the mow and blow guys are here and you wouldn't have been able to hear me. I think we finished with the CIP and the mini CIP. I think there's a lot of work that's going to happen in the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to vote stuff at our meeting in the second Tuesday of September. Is there any new business? No. Any old business? Okay, I think I've just given you 14 minutes more in your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you
Have
for
a
all
good
your
night.
hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Charlie, we'll need to connect to schedule a time. I know
Uh,
you're